Who? 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 Ah, yes, my fellow Hooties, it's time. The video I've been working on for a while now. With every successful slice of life or sitcom cartoon series like King of the Hill, or Family Guy, or Simpsons, and even the Flintstones and the Jetsons from the 60s and 70s, where we see the everyday lives of cartoons and families and how they interacted with the world around them. There are those that didn't make the cut and ended sooner than expected, or they ended when they chose to end. I want to talk about 3 series that, in my opinion, are underrated gems from classic Adult Swim. The first one being Mission Hill. I already reviewed the first episode of the series, but I want to talk about the series as a whole with you Hooties and the vibe each series has, whether it lasted a few seasons or was unfortunately canned before season 2. These series had some really good voice actors behind some of the characters. I'll also be avoiding using clips for this video, as I want this to be something you can listen to while you go about your day, work, while you do your chores or take a nap, whatever you do while watching this. I hope it entertains you Hooties. Also, let me know what you thought of the series I'm going to mention in the comments. And if you have a favorite classic series not mentioned here, let me know in the comments. And with that being said, let's start with the first series.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Chapter 1, Mission Hill, from the suburbs to the big city. As I discussed in my last video, the series follows Andy French and his roommates as Andy's little brother moves in from the suburbs to finish out high school, and we see episodes that center around many of the recurring characters in the series, like Andy, Kevin, Jim, Posey, and so on. It can be goofy and silly at times, but it was also really more grounded in reality than most shows. Some of the episodes I remember the most focused on a specific character dealing with something, which I'll be talking about some of the episodes from each series. To 1, get that run-in time, and 2, show the similarities and differences of the series I'm discussing from the late 90s and early 2000s, and some of you Hooties think I hate Kevin, and to be fair, you're not that far off. I'll be talking about 2 Kevin-centered episodes. I'd say 3, but that one is more of an Andy-Kevin episode, even though it follows Kevin. I'll also be discussing a few Andy-centered episodes, both involving Jim and a subplot about Posey, which is part of one of the Kevin episodes. There's even an episode about Kevin and Wally, but I might save that for a video of its own, if you Hooties want. So I hope you Hooties are ready with your snacks and drinks as we get Chapter 1 started with Episode 7, Kevin versus the SATs, or Nocturnal Admissions, where Kevin and his friends, Toby and George, attempt to cheat the SATs to ensure that they get into good colleges, and their plans fall apart as the jocks find out about their plans, adding danger from both being caught and being pummeled by the jocks if they fail. It also causes strain within Kevin's friend group when Kevin starts to lose grip on reality, trying to achieve the perfect score of 1600, and even went looking for someone who was rumored to almost get the perfect score. And when he finally achieved the coveted 1600, he ate it to avoid the jocks from getting high scores and running amok in his dream colleges and universities, and took the following beating and swirly like a champ. Another episode, Episode 3, Kevin's Problem, involving Kevin helping his friend George with his job at the convenience store, but gives in to the temptation of the inappropriate magazine. And upon getting caught blinging his belong, Kevin accidentally sets the store on fire, falsely accusing two bully characters of being the arsonist, which they were shoplifting. So I mean, they weren't 100% innocent. And on top of that, the guidance counselor threatened to sabotage Kevin's future if he doesn't lie on the stand, which, at first, Kevin does, before coming clean. Before the guilt causes Kevin to hallucinate the small Statue of Liberty turning into his mom, and he admits to what he's done. Okay, that sounds better. As he's made fun of by everyone in the court, Andy defends his brother by shaming everyone for casting judgment on Kevin for something that everyone does. We also get the subplot involving Jim and his hot pants. Oh, I'm sorry. Kodai pantsu, or spicy pants. But not surprisingly, Andy isn't a fan of constantly seeing Jim bending over in his spicy pants. Also, why would Andy care about all those idiots wearing spicy pants? I wouldn't run off when they threw their snotty little insults. I mean, I don't really wear pants as much, except when I visit Earth. Which I wouldn't, considering how freezing it is these days, if it wasn't for a party wanting to play in the snow with Glep and Cusco. Yeah, I started making this script when it was freezing out. Anyways, you wouldn't catch me letting those snotty parisses call me Jetro or Mr. Fongarelli, especially that Frenchy Beanpole and wannabe Shaggy. They'd be catching some wing to the side of their domes if they pulled that with me. Nope, can't be me. There's also the episode centered around Andy slowly becoming a sleazeball, just like Ron in the episode 6. Andy gets a promotion, which I feel for Andy. Always sending cartoon submissions to different magazines, but getting no good news. Well, Andy constantly working at getting his dream job started while working a tiring job. I know that all too well. We also get a double feature, episodes 8 and 9, Unemployment, parts 1 and 2, where Andy blows all of Kevin's $400 on a keyboard, but before Andy can pay him back, Ron gets nabbed by Uncle Sam for not paying his taxes and is left unemployed as he tries to find work. Meanwhile, Kevin gets on his case for not bringing in money, which, okay, it is Andy's fault for wasting all the money, leaving it up to Kevin to get Ron to sign for Andy to receive unemployment, which he does deserve with the way Ron treated him and the people working there. And Ron talks Kevin into taking the keys to his Ferraro so the IRS doesn't take it, but finds out that owning a Ferraro isn't exactly the cheapest. Then Andy and Kevin get the Ferraro destroyed, by accident mind you, and Ron wasn't the happiest. And that was just part 1. Part 2 begins with Andy sleeping all day, collecting unemployment checks, eating junk food all day in movie marathons, but also annoying the other tenants, living on a why bother attitude, thinking he lives a lavish lifestyle, when in actuality he's literally falling apart, and while trying to get his tooth reattached, he finds out that Jim, his best friend, works in advertising and is pretty far up in the totem pole. He makes his job sound simple, but I think even Jim isn't aware of how talented he is. But Andy just wants to be a loser bum while listening to people more successful than him. And he has a scared straight moment with a worker in the boiler room. Andy finally takes steps to better his life and get a job with the help of Wally and Gus. But unfortunately, he didn't get the job. But thanks to Jim and his hilarious pull with the company, Andy gets his own gold card and gets a new tooth made, thus beginning his new career with his best friend in the art department, with only 4 more episodes remaining in the series. So it's good that he at least found the job of his dreams. The last episode I want to talk about is episode 12, Happy Birthday Kevin. I don't need to explain the basic plot, I mean, it's in the title. There was also episode 5, Andy and Kevin make a friend, when Kevin's friend, George's older sister, visits from college, and Andy and Kevin fight for who she likes. Which, I'll just say that Kevin is still in high school, and she hooks up with Andy, so I don't see how Kevin thinks he has a shot, but that's just a meh episode. We're talking about Happy Birthday Kevin, when Andy gets a call from his mom telling him he has to throw a birthday party for Kevin like the pampered little princess that he is, like the ones back in the suburbs. And Andy is already in a crummy mood, no thanks to his enabling mom. And yeah, as a 33-year-old hoot, I see the series from Andy's point of view. I can't stand Kevin. And we see Kevin's point of view and how his birthday morning wasn't full of people kissing his pampered, powdered behind. And he learns that Kevin's precious birthday is just a regular day for everyone else, except other people that share the same birthday. Oh, but they're not important in the eyes of Princess Kevin, huh? Okay, so having that weirdo whispering violations in his ear was uncalled for. Then the principal gives a special announcement of his birthday. Thankfully, the other students give him a proper birthday celebration for a nerd like him, and so does Andy, who plans on giving him a rude awakening of how the real world works, instead of pampering him, to which Kevin seems to have had a bad day. Aww, good! But Kevin acts too down in the dumps, ruining Andy's fun, and Kevin has a pity party about how things were better in Briarhurst, and Andy actually attempts to throw him a proper birthday party in the big city with a butt cake, a party at the local bowling alley, then dinner at the smooth and chill Shaka Blues, where Kevin complains that the food is burnt. Andy even got the legal equivalent of the Blues Brothers, even going out of the way to give him the game he wanted. But it wasn't good enough for Kevin, and despite Andy not knowing that he got the expansion pack and not the full game, a honest mistake, Kevin acts like a pampered little soggy blanket, causing Andy to justifiably call out Kevin for being a little baby. And look, Kevin expects people to still pamper him even when he's a senior in high school. He needed this wake-up call from Andy. Their mom never pampered Andy like this. Why does Kevin think he gets to have a big party every time he gets a year older? I've always hated how Kevin acted like this at his party. But, to the show's credit, they do have a touching scene where Kevin runs to his parents' old house in Briarhurst, and it really hits home that their parents aren't there. Well, duh, Kevin, they're in Wyoming. But him and Andy have a sweet brother convo while eating chalky cake, and Andy encourages him to do something that he's always wanted to do, which was yelling a curse word in the house, and some cops barge in, which turned out to be friends of Andy's, and they throw a little party, and Kevin learns about the first time Andy got drunk, but instead of Googer Geiger, he said Bigger Biger, said by someone who sounds like he's also voiced by Scott Menville. Despite Kevin being possibly at his worst here, And not being a secret that I'm not a big fan of him, I do like this episode. Kevin learns that as time passes, things aren't the same as they were. Yeah, it's the last scene of the episode that we get this, but it's sprinkled in with the theme of Kevin not happy that his birthday not being the special time of year that he was used to. It's like our own memories growing up. Some things just aren't the same as when we were little hooties. Your point of view may have changed from when you first saw a show growing up compared to now. As I stated earlier, I see the series from Andy's point of view, a talented and struggling artist having to deal with an annoying but good-hearted individual, my case being Party Hoots, or something like that. Well, that was chapter 1. In all, I like Mission Hill. Yeah, it's not perfect. Not many shows can say that they're perfect. I mean, King of the Hill has some stinkers for episodes. But it's time for us to take a trip from the big city of Cosmopolis to the humble little Chernobyl-like Hill Valley. More specifically, down in the valley where the chemicals spill that came from the people living up from the hill, as we pay a visit to the family by the landfill with hazardous foam in their happy, glowing home. Chapter 2, The Oblongs, the real nuclear family. Now it does say there are 2 seasons despite only having 13 episodes. That's because the first 8 were originally aired on the WB before moving to Adult Swim for the remaining 5. The Oblongs were more similar to a show like King of the Hill, Simpsons, Family Guy, or even Flintstones, but with an extra dash of radioactive waste to give that scrappy series a kick. Probably from the extra leg that was sprouted from it. We follow the Oblong family, and sometimes the lovely people of Hill Valley, and the many strange inhabitants of the valley. What separates the Oblongs from other slice of life series is the goofy characters that reside in the radioactive wonderland, Phil. We also see how the people in the hills treat those living in the valley. You know, the typical snotty jock rich people looking down at the little people, literally in this case. And we also find out that Pickles, voiced by Gene Smart, was originally from the hills, but met Bob Oblong, voiced famously by Will Ferrell, and fell in love. Then her hair fell out and she started drinking and smoking. And then they had 3 kids! Well, 4 kids, but the oldest, Biff and Chip, are conjoined twins, both voiced by brothers, Randy and Jason Skiar? Sorry if I butchered it. And there's the main character that the series follows, Milo, voiced by King of the Hill own Pamela Adlon, and his gang of unusual characters. And finally, Milo's little sister Beth, voiced by Jeannie Elias. Like the previous chapter, I'll be briefly discussing some episodes that focus on a specific character, whether it be the main Oblong fan or a few side characters in the series. But this time, I'll just stick to 1 episode per character. And I think a good character to start with is none other than Milo himself, and the very first episode, Misfit Love, to start the series, where our lovable and unusual protagonist finds love in Yvette at first day of normal school. But alas, she is one of the Debbies, and the jocks would never let him anywhere near her. But his mom helps him by distracting the Debbies so he can see Yvette, to which he finds out that Yvette is actually an alien who performs experiments on his brain. But after she thinks he died after the jocks burned down the clubhouse, or more so Milo's friend, Creepy Susie, her car self-destructs because her trip back wasn't cost effective. Thus was the end of Milo's first love, leaving him to poke her remains with a stick. But we see a jolt of electricity dance across the power poles, which I really don't know if that was the series saying that she lives on as the electricity, or if she really is dead, just her physical form. I don't know. That was the first episode of the series. If anything, it's a nice way to start the series off to give the viewers a feel for the series and if they want to watch more or not. We also see a side plot with Bob being afraid to lose their family's medical insurance due to the numerous injuries from living in the valley, which they did lose due to Pickles slamming into a tree and putting Chip in a full body cast, but Biff was just fine. And was also the reason why Milo was able to go to normal school. And seeing how far Milo would go for his alien heartsuite gave him the courage to launch himself at that dang dirty creep that was hitting on Pickles, and also impress the flying little people that was mad at him that they flew further than them. I really don't know why they would have been mad. I mean, the man was just a torso. Anywho, that's the Milo episode I wanted to discuss. Now, I want to discuss the episode Pickles' Little Amazons, where Pickles' constant neglect of her daughter Beth and almost getting her eaten by a giant carnivorous plant, and got said plant killed by the cops, and was told that she either spend 200 hours helping her daughter's little Amazons or jail time. I mean, seriously, to leave her alone at Akron, Ohio of all places? Seriously, the judge reads out in the episode that Pickle has indeed left Beth alone in the attic goblin Cyrex's hometown. She's lucky Judge Hoots wasn't her judge. She'd be sentenced to 10 years dungeon. Anyway, Pickles had her work ahead of her, entering the Little Amazons, the Valley chapter, in an official troop by getting Milo dressed up like a girl, which I will say Bob's reaction to thinking Milo was trans was funny, but wouldn't fly today. But Pickles finds out that it's not easy to raise $500 to get into the Jamboree, even if it means hitting the mean streets to make that scratch to get in. But when the goings get rough, like them arriving late, Milo getting revealed to be, not a girl, and not only getting banned for life, but having to hear the Debbies singing, but they are thrown out, understandably, by the driver, and thankfully the Valley troop are familiar with the ways of the main streets and make it back home. Oh yeah, and they gave Pristine the truckers. I'll leave that there for your imaginations. And Bob is just happy that Milo isn't a transvestite. His words, not mine. The early 2000s were a different time, where you can make those jokes and not get cancelled. When Pickles was asked to be the permanent den mother, her 200 hours were up, and she dips, but Beth said she'll be back. Now the last episode I wanted to talk about is Season 2 episode, Get Off My Back, when Milo gets stuck to Biff and Chip's back, and at first they were annoyed by Milo being glued to their back, but soon Chip actually bonds with his attached little brother, causing a rift between him and his sports-obsessed Biff, who wants to show up the bullies, Jared and Blaine. You can't tell me there's something more going on with their friendship. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Biff's journal might reveal some hidden feelings he has for his coach, and even though they learn to appreciate their brother more, they still lose. But I think they leave with a more valuable prize, how to be a better team. And also went back to being a Milo for costing them the race. And all, it's a nice episode in the series. The Oblongs was absolutely an underrated gem that needs the King of the Hill treatment with a revival Season 3. A time skip might not be needed, but maybe some modern stuff added in, or keep it in the same time period that it was in, to keep it timeless. Either way, the Oblongs will always be one of my favorite shows from classic Adult Swim while growing up. And now it's time to discuss a show that I admittedly don't have a specific episode to discuss, but would still like to talk about. So let's grab our cameras, lights, and quiet on set as we move on to the final chapter of the video with Chapter 3, Home Movies. Now this show wasn't as short-lived as the previous shows we discussed, but I don't see anyone really talking about it, aside from the nostalgic few here on YouTube. So I'm sorry there aren't really any episodes to highlight, but I will talk about home movies from this Hootie's point of view, since it's not really a series that failed, but it is the first Adult Swim cartoon I saw. I remember it like it was yesterday, about 20 plus years ago. I was still at Dexter's lab, and Hi Puffy Ami Yumi was finishing up, and I was expecting Toonami, if I'm not mistaken, but instead I'm greeted by the iconic Adult Swim intro bumper. You know, the old people in the pool with the song Dust Devil by DCode, with a reminder of no kids in the pool, Adult Swim. It was surprising for me at first, but then I saw the first cartoon airing that night. Now, I don't know if this was the very first cartoon of Adult Swim, but I can say that I was there. Now, how can I explain home movies for you Hooties that haven't experienced it yet? Imagine 3 kids making goofy movies from the friend's house that owns the camera, aka Brendan Small, named after the creator and voice of said character of the same name. Yes, the same creator of Metalocalypse, an amazing musician. The other characters being Jason Panopoulos and Melissa Robbins. While seeing them live their everyday life, from going to soccer practice and interacting with Coach John McGurk, or Brendan interacting with his dad, that isn't in the picture until Season 2, and he only appears in one episode of Season 3, and doesn't even appear in Season 4. He wasn't even there for the birth of his and his second wife Linda's baby, because he was on a business trip. So Linda stayed with Paula for the remainder of her pregnancy. Speaking of Paula, I'll just say it, Paula Small, aka Brendan's mom, is a certified baddie. I don't know, it's just a combo of her being chill in her look, she's taking care of Brendan and even adopting Josie as a single mom. Am I the only one that agrees that Paula is a baddie? In a good way. But yeah, Andrew Small is trash. If you haven't watched home movies, I really recommend it. It might not be the most exciting show for classic Adult Swim, but it's got so much more life than a lot of shows these days. They let small moments like conversations between characters stretch on, and it really helps make them feel real. And that might sound crazy since it's a literal cartoon, but the voice actors really do an amazing job portraying real people, and this series with admittedly not the most realistic art style. But that's also the charm of it too. I don't know, it's really a show you have to watch and make the decision for yourself if it's something you want to watch. It might have lasted 3 more seasons than the previous chapters, which is why I don't have any specific episodes or character-centered episodes. I still highly recommend this show to at least try and see if you want to watch more. Anyways, that's the video. Sorry there aren't really that many clips. There was more of a ranting video where you can sit in the background while you're at work or you're doing your chores or whatever you're doing in your life. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. As always, you fellow Hooties' opinion and feedback are greatly appreciated, and I can't thank you all enough for all of your support, old and new Hooties. Like this video, share with your fam and cheese. Subscribe today if you're new to the channel and join the Parliament of Hoots. I think I want to talk about South Park for my next video. Maybe a video where Cartman buys a certain amusement park and how it affects a certain character. But until then, I'll see you when you visit the Owlery again, and I give my hoot in the dark. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, share with your fams, and hype if that's even a thing that's possible for my videos. I don't know what that's about. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe today and join the Parliament of Hoots. Don't forget to check out my other social medias like Twitter and Instagram and even Twitch, even though I'm hardly ever on there anymore, and my PlayStation Network account. Also, check out those videos down there. It'll take you to more of my content. And until then, I'll see you when you visit the Owlery again, and I give my hoot in the dark.